We are here at the Toyota Land Cruiser Heritage Museum in Salt Lake City, Utah, and this is a gold mine if you are into Land Cruisers because they have one of just about everything. And when it comes to the Land Cruiser, I mean, it's one of the most recognizable vehicles, not only in the US, but around the world. Its formation really started post-war when Japan needed an affordable, small utilitarian vehicle, similar to what the Willys Jeep was to, well, the US through the CJ, and really you could argue that the original FJ series Toyota, I mean, it was a copy of a Jeep. Originally, that's what J stood for in FJ. Now, this model was the first model that came to the US and became very popular. So this is the FJ40 series of Land Cruiser. And Land Cruisers are named based on their series number: 40, 55, 60, 80. We'll talk about them.
This video is brought to you by SimpliSafe. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. We've already been using SimpliSafe for over a year now at the ranch, and SimpliSafe makes it super easy to add new security systems and new buildings as needed, like our barn here. The new Smart Alarm indoor camera is the only indoor camera that can instantly trigger the alarm and activate a siren and live two-way agent audio. SimpliSafe also comes with 24/7 live guard protection that allows for professional monitoring of your property, letting them see and speak to any intruders and stopping them in their tracks. This all costs less than $1 a day. That's less than half the cost of the traditional home security brands, and there's no long-term contracts required. LiveGuard and the Smart Alarm camera integrate seamlessly into existing SimpliSafe systems. It's easy, and we set this whole system up in our barn in less than an hour. I said it before, and I'll say it again. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for a Fast Protect plan and receive your first month free. Head over to simplisafe.com/TFL to customize yours.
The 40 was the original. Now, this was a small, usually sold in a two-door, either hard or soft top configuration. It was a utilitarian vehicle designed to work hard and be long-lasting. So it was powered by an inline six-cylinder engine, one of the F series of engines that was a relatively low horsepower engine. Originally, the engine design in the Land Cruiser, by the way, was a copy of the Stovebolt 6 by General Motors that they had evolved. But solid axles front and rear, leaf springs front and rear, and this is the iconic face. What you see here, and it's more apparent on this green one next to us, Cole, is what the design of the Land Cruiser became iconic for. The white grille with the Toyota lettering, the two round headlights, and then the fender-mounted turn signals. The FJ40 goes down in history as being one of the most durable, long-lasting, capable, utilitarian four-wheel drives in history, and I just love them. We've owned one. They're fantastic vehicles. A little slow, very, 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 very cramped and uncomfortable, but they'll get you where you need to go 100% of the time. But of course, US consumers wanted more space. They wanted more versatility and usability, and that's where we see the Iron Pig. The 55 series of Land Cruiser is one of the funniest of all the Land Cruiser from a design perspective, and that's where that pig reference comes from. But you've got this really funny nose with these inset headlights and kind of this pointy grille, and then usually these are sold in a two-tone configuration. But this is really the first appearance of what we'd call like a wagon-style Land Cruiser. 4 doors, usable doors with a more comfortable interior and an overall more usable appearance for families, for road trips, for, you know, hauling stuff. The FJ55 are some of the best vehicles out there from a reliability standpoint. Now, they rust faster than a tin can left out in the middle of the ocean, but they are great vehicles, highly underappreciated, highly undervalued in my opinion. Also solid axles, still have the leaf springs, traditional four-wheel drives, iconic vehicles. The 55 series Land Cruiser, honestly probably one of my favorite. 2F inline six-cylinder engine, not really any more power than the FJ40. 65 miles an hour is probably realistically all you're going to get on the interstate. But you know, for a vehicle sold, you know, 1970s is where these were popularized in the States. Yeah, it's pretty cool, but not nearly as iconic as our next vehicle. Now we make our way to the 60 series of Land Cruiser, and this is the first Land Cruiser that I think a lot of, you know, your typical non-car person will recognize here in the US. Now they had the early 60s, which was like this one, which has a carbureted inline six. The later ones had the fuel-injected inline six with the square headlights, the 62. But these are absolutely phenomenal vehicles, and this is you know, and it's arguable, but we start to see a lot more comfort features enter the 60 series relative to like the Iron Pig. So still solid axles right front and back, but now we start to see more modern dashboards and more modern seating upholstery and a more comfortable, refined vehicle that we hadn't seen in the 40 or the 55. Honestly, these are probably some of my favorite Land Cruisers. Still really old school, and that, you know, carbureted manual transmission in this model. When you got the fuel injected ones, they went automatic, but you know, very livable, drivable cars. Still not a car that's going to do 85 miles an hour comfortably on the freeway, but just a phenomenal looking vehicle, very off-road capable, easy to lift with the solid axles, the body on frame, and probably one of the best designs of all the Land Cruisers. And this is that 62 I was talking about. You can tell it's 62 based on the square headlights, you know, initially. And original paint, originally owner, how many miles? 65,000 miles. So about 1/10 of its lifespan has been used up on this Land Cruiser. But yeah, I mean, spend a little bit more time on the 60s because these things are rad. Now, this is a Land Cruiser I have a lot of experience with because I rode in these as a kid, but the 80 series of Land Cruiser, a little bit more rounded, a little bit more comfy, even more capable. You could spec these with diff locks front and rear in the solid axles. They had two primary variants here in the States. There was the FJ80, which had the slower, just as reliable engine, and then eventually they went to the FZJ80. I think it was a 4.2, 4 liter. Someone in the comments let me know. I don't know what the FZJ displacement was, but these are great vehicles, right? More comfortable. You could get leather upholstery, and you could get some more comfort options and better climate control and a more refined experience, but still retain the off-road capability that the Land Cruiser is known for. And now we've made our way to the 100 series Land Cruiser. You know, this kind of marked the start of the modern era of the Land Cruiser. So with the 100 series, they went way more comfortable and way more refined. So they ditched the solid front axle, independent front suspension, still the solid rear. And then here in the US, they also ditched the inline 6-cylinder engine that the Land Cruiser had been known for decades. And they went with a 4.7 liter V8. So you have more power. I wouldn't say more fuel economy, but more power, leather interiors, heated seats. You get screens in them. You know, not a lot of ground clearance in the US, right? We probably lost a little bit of the capability. Later ones lost the rear diff lock. But these are great, long-lasting vehicles that are very comfortable. I mean, you can get 500,000 miles out of a 100 series, no problem. The design, not quite as exciting, not quite as angular or progressive, but you know, if you just want a vehicle to last you hundreds of thousands of miles with minimal maintenance, 100 series Land Cruiser is where it's at. Gotta make a quick pit stop at the FJ Cruiser, sold from I think 07 through 2014, if memory serves me right, based on the 4Runner, a little smaller, not really marketed as a Land Cruiser, it's marketed as an FJ Cruiser, of course. But yeah, lots of fans of FJ Cruisers. They look cool, they're funky, they've got crazy interiors and weird colors, and you know, the front end off the FJ40, very modifiable, great vehicle. One of my favorites of the entire Land Cruiser lineup, actually, even though it's not really a true Land Cruiser, but you gotta give a shout out to the legendary FJ Cruiser. And now we've made our way all the way up to the 200 series. So this is the previous generation of Land Cruiser introduced in the late 2000s. They took the formula of the 100 series, they gave it more displacement, they gave it more power, more size, more comfort, more cost, more everything, and we ended up with this huge monster of a vehicle. Now these are so reliable, so comfortable, and they were expensive. You know, $80,000+ with markups, especially like this one with the Heritage Edition. You're gonna be mid-90s realistically, but you know, they're well-loved vehicles, still very capable, even though they are, you know, independent front suspension and huge. They have a lot of built-in capability, a lot of ground clearance, and a lot of fans around the world. Now abroad, when they killed this off about 4 years ago, they introduced a 300 series, which is this to the bigger extreme. Twin turbo V6, it's what the LX is based off of. That vehicle is not coming to the States. Instead, we are getting a new generation of Land Cruiser, an all new approach at what a Land Cruiser could be. And finally, introducing you to the new 2024 Land Cruiser, a smaller, more compact return to form for the Land Cruiser. So we saw the 200 series. This vehicle is about an inch shorter, but it's a full 4 inches narrower than that 200 series, and it's a very different vehicle. So where that 200 series was powered by a monstrous, naturally aspirated V8, the new Land Cruiser has gone turbo. A 2.4 liter, 4-cylinder turbo, mated to a hybrid system, which is pretty bold for what has been a pretty conservative designed vehicle over many years. Now, see those orange high voltage cables there? That should give you a hint, Cole, of what we're looking at. So this vehicle makes 326 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque. It's got a 48 horsepower electric motor, and it's got that 8-speed automatic transmission, no manual option, feeding a high-low transfer case. Now, the Land Cruiser is an off-road focused machine in this new generation. Even if you get the base trim, the 1958 trim, you get a standard locking rear diff. Let me make that super clear. Even in the base spec, standard rear locking diff. Across all the specs, you get recovery points integrated into the front. Across every Land Cruiser, you get a standard hitch rated to tow 6,000 pounds with an integrated trailer brake controller. Huge things for the US market, right? That Toyota absolutely nailed. And visually, this vehicle is kind of a lot of throwback. So if you look over there, we've got the old school FJ40. I see a lot of FJ40 in this new Land Cruiser. It's very squared off, right? You got the Toyota badge across the front. You got the egg crate grille, and you've got a pretty differentiated bumper from quarter panel design. Now this is the Land Cruiser trim. This is the upper end version of this vehicle. But even still, you can see, right, like the front end is going to be much easier to customize than any Land Cruiser of the past. Much easier to customize than the current 4Runner because a lot of separated components. You got these little LED lights incorporated into the front end by Rigid there. And you got like the squared off wheel arches and the square mirrors, and you can get it with the two-tone paint and the roof rack, right? Design-wise, Toyota absolutely nailed this new vehicle. As we make our way around to the rear here, of course, full LED tail lights, pop the glass open, push of a button, access to the trunk there. And one thing you notice in the trunk, no more third row, so that you actually still get cup holders. So there's still the integration of cup holders for a third row, but no option for a third row in the new 2024, at least here in the States. This is a global vehicle. In other markets, that will be a potential. Of course, you got your rear wiper. You can also open up the lift gate. This Land Cruiser, being one of the upper specs, does have the power lift gate, which is quite nice. And then when you talk about the design and the construction of this vehicle, solid rear axle. It's got skid plates throughout on the upper trims, independent front suspension, but a body-on-frame construction. And Cole, if you want to hop in on the passenger side, we got to show them the interior. There is more tech in this Land Cruiser than we have ever seen on any Land Cruiser. So we've got digital rearview mirror there. We've got multi-terrain select on this one. We've got crawl control. We've got various drive modes selected here on this little rotary control. And we've got this enormous 12.3-inch Toyota display that runs our latest and greatest in user profile technology, right? This is used across the Tacoma and the Tundra and all sorts of other vehicles, and that's all incorporated here. We'll also find down here on the middle, dual zone automatic climate control, heated seats, ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, wireless phone charger, selector for the 8-speed automatic transmission, and even a full digital instrument cluster, which is very, very cool. Now, this little button is my most favorite part, I should say. You got your crawl control, and then you can also do your multi-terrain select at the twist of this little knob. And then back here, you can see the controls for 4 high, 4 low, center, and that rear diff lock. And SDM, this vehicle does have a stabilizer bar disconnect, all at the push of a button. Small sunroof, not a huge sunroof in this vehicle, right? But it is there, ready to go. And then if you get the Land Cruiser, you can option it with the premium package to get the leather seats, right? Perforated leather. Feels really, really good. Now as we hop to the rear, good size rear seat as well. Not a completely flat floor because you do have the hump here in the middle, which you do need for the drivetrain because it is a true 4-wheel drive vehicle, but lots of headroom even at 6 feet tall, and you get a nice stadium seating effect where it feels like the rear passengers have a great view over the front, easy to see exactly what's going on. But guys, I mean, dimensionally, it's a smaller, more compact Land Cruiser that still tows 6,000 pounds, over 400 pound-feet of torque, true locking diffs, got about It's got about 8.7 inches of ground clearance, so not a lot of ground clearance, but it looks like Toyota has made a little bit of extra room compared to 4Runner and Tacoma for larger size tires. This one's rolling on a set of Michelin 265/70 R18 tires. That's like a 32.6 is the size of that tire. This is an LTX trail tire. Underbody protection, recovery points. This thing's ready for the trail. Guys, let me know what you think of the new Land Cruiser in the comments section below. As always, this is Matami behind the camera, Cole. We'll see you on the next one.